Hello, citizens of YouTube land.
Hey,
It's your president and your VP.
did you forget your line there for a second, Dad?
Not really.
You were just like, it's your president and vice president.
Back with a brand new series that we're starting for this month on this day.
Before we get to that, say happy birthday to my dad here.
Yeah, 39th year on Earth. Who would have figured? Brand new series that we're starting today. March of the Leprechauns. This time, it's going to be the very first movie entitled Leprechaun.
Yeah.
Came out on January the 8th, 1993. Produced for a budget of just under $1 million. It made a little over $8 million at the box office.
So yeah, this movie was successful, even though critics have panned this movie, basically.
Yes, the movie has a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, you guys know in the past that I have had severe disagreements with Rotten Tomatoes.
We don't like Rotten Tomatoes here, so...
The movie was written and directed by a man named Mark Jones. It stars Warwick Davis as the titular Leprechaun.
Yeah.
It also stars Jennifer Aniston in her very first role in film. And I don't know, she may have had a few TV spots beforehand, but this is indeed before she got her starring role on Friends.
Yeah.
It also stars Mark Holton, who later goes on to, who was in Pee-wee's Big Top Adventure. I didn't know if you knew that or not, but he is.
I didn't know that.
And he's also in a later movie that's okay, but not too great, called Gacy. It's a movie about John Wayne Gacy. So there's a little backstory on the different actors and actresses in this.
Don't forget. Oh wait, yeah, you already mentioned Warwick Davis.
Yes, and he was best known at the time for having played Willow, and had also been in one of the Star Wars movies in the original trilogy, and then he later makes an appearance in the later movies as well.
Ah, okay.
Because of his short stature, he's able to do that. So, this movie is about a killer leprechaun. It is basically if you took Lucky Charms and Critters and you smash them together.
Yep. And actually, fun fact, I didn't know this, but they were aiming to make this movie PG-13 and made for kids.
Yeah. Warwick injected a lot of humor into his role, and so the writer-director Mark Jones went with it, and they shot it as a horror comedy, but the producers wanted a more edgy movie directed at older audiences, so they shot more gore as a result. Now, my feelings on it is that it probably could have worked for a movie aimed towards, you know, that 10 to 13-year-old demographic, if you will.
Yeah, because I feel like that a lot of 10 to 13-year-olds would love the corniness that is Leprechaun.
This movie is stupid, but in a good way. It is very dumb, but just shut your brain off and enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
It begins with a fellow named Daniel O'Grady, and he comes home to his wife in a limo because he has captured the leprechaun and was forced the leprechaun to tell him where his gold is. So the leprechaun is able to kill Mr. O'Grady's wife, and then he has a fight with Mr. O'Grady, and O'Grady gets the upper hand, but not before suffering a stroke.
Yeah.
Now, the weakness of the leprechaun is a four-leaf clover.
Yeah.
So, 10 years later, Jennifer Aniston's family, her name in this movie, by the way, is Tori Redding. Her and her dad moved to the same farm, and they then come across three painters who are painting their house.
Which, by the way, the company of this is named Three Guys Painting.
Yeah, three guys that paint. It's kind of dumb. And and yeah, it's just dumb.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1, facepalm.
So, the three painters are named Nathan, Ozzy, and Alex. Alex is a 10-year-old kid who I really couldn't stand in this movie, and I was kind of hoping that him and Tori would get killed, but alas, that did not happen. Nathan is the leader, and him and Tori seem to have a bit of a love relationship going on where they're kind of flirting a little bit. Ozzy is simple.
Yeah.
And as a result, he is the one that knocks loose the leprechaun after he brushes the four-leaf clover off because he falls for the old mimicking a child's voice in the crate routine.
That the leprechaun does a lot throughout this movie.
Yeah.
And he even mimics a cat.
Yes, he does. And so Ozzy is able to run off because his powers aren't strong enough yet. And
because he doesn't have his gold.
A rainbow leads to the pot of gold where him and Alex discover it, and Ozzy accidentally swallows one of the gold coins. Because of course he does. So the leprechaun then basically scratches Tori on the leg, and it's not until a little bit later that they realize that they're dealing with a leprechaun. Now, they go to get one of the gold coins appraised at a pawn shop, and the pawn shop owner says, "Let me keep this overnight." Well, the leprechaun is hiding in the pawn shop owner's safe, and he jumps out, and it leads to one of the best scenes in all of film history.
He pogo sticks on top of the shop owner's belly and kills him, knowing as the
while doing a little rhyme at the same time.
Yeah.
Which I just did.
Yeah.
So, he then spots a tricycle. So that's naturally his getaway vehicle. No, he had rode the tricycle there.
Yeah, he rode the tricycle there. Then he spots
a Power Wheels car,
which then gets turned into the leprechaun's deathmobile.
And the leprechaun, okay, here's what's really great, guys. The leprechaun gets pulled over by a cop. And then the leprechaun kills the cop and steals his car. He uses the cop's leg to drive the car.
Yeah.
Because he can't reach the pedal.
Also, don't forget that the cop was like, "Oh, it's a little too young to be driving, don't you think?"
This movie...
And then he's like, "I am 600 years old."
Yeah. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Some more backstory, though, that Jennifer Aniston has since expressed embarrassment over this film. Now, me, if I'm in Hollywood, if I was in Hollywood, I would own every single thing I did. You know, a paycheck's a paycheck, right? Especially when you're a struggling actress or actor. So she had denounced the movie. The critics were extremely harsh to it. They didn't get what they were really going for here. The production company at the time was Trimark Studios, which got bought by Lionsgate, who now owns the rights to all the Leprechaun movies. But I guess they now share rights with Universal because we found this movie on Peacock.
Yeah, they share rights with Universal due to the fact that Leprechaun Returns is on Sci-Fi, and Sci-Fi is an NBC property, and NBC is owned by Universal.
So getting back to the plot, he then manages to get back to the O'Grady farm, the Leprechaun does, where he has this big giant standoff. And Tori is so dense, she doesn't understand that it's a leprechaun that's causing all of this. And she's like, "Well, you shut up with the leprechaun." Well, hello, the leprechaun's the one that's doing everything.
Yeah, he has his his magic stuff doing his thing. And then later on in the movie, to speed this up a little bit, later on in the movie, they distract the leprechaun by throwing shoes because apparently you can't help but to shine shoes. because
he has a fixation.
because he was a shoemaker.
And so he has a compulsion to do it. So they have this big standoff where they end up messing up the leprechaun, and he takes a shotgun blast, and they run off and they go to the nursing home where Mr. O'Grady has been ever since he had a stroke. Now, again, she falls for this. The leprechaun is sitting in the chair pretending to be Mr. O'Grady. Using Mr. O'Grady's voice, he tells her there's only one way I'm going to kill a leprechaun. But I'm not going to tell you. And she turns around, and surprise, surprise, it's the leprechaun.
Obviously.
I
and
mean...
then he chases her down the hallways, and he's like...
Now, fun fact about that scene was he chased her down the hallways with the wheelchair. But what was interesting was they had to film Jennifer Aniston running in slow motion because Warwick could not keep up with her because he was having a hard time maneuvering the wheelchair. So they had to speed up his bits while slowing hers down to make it seem like he was catching up with her. So she runs into the elevator.
Hold on
where
the editing is quite obvious because you could see the leprechaun's arms move super fast, and you could tell that's how it was sped up. But other than that, you don't actually know that this is sped up. That the footage is sped up.
So she's in an elevator now, and she finds O'Grady hanging from where the leprechaun had stashed his body. He's not quite dead yet.
Actually, he threw him off onto the elevator.
Yeah.
All the horror movie style, by the way. He just chucked him, and then he fell through the elevator. Where then he tells her that you have to get a 4-leaf clover, and they go to the 4-leaf clover patch, and she is like, "I'm never gonna find a 4-leaf clover," and Ozzy's like, "Tori, you gotta believe. If you just have faith, you can find the 4-leaf clover." Guys,
goes, "This is stupid, and I've had enough of your fantasies, and I just want to go back to L.A." Okay. She basically said that the whole movie, by the way.
And then she's like, look, I'm gonna pick it right here, and there's, oh my gosh, it's the 4-leaf clover!
Now, surprise, surprise, when they get the 4-leaf clover, it's up to the little annoying kid, Alex, to save the day. After Ozzy has lured the leprechaun away from everybody, Alex says the line. I'm sure most of you guys have said it, so I'm not really going to say it. But it's, you Lucky Charms, because we have young kids out there, so we try to stray away from using profanity.
And then he shoots him in the mouth, or then he swallows it, and then by the way, after that, he doesn't die. He's like, I won't stop until I have me gold.
So then, Nathan takes the shotgun and boots him in the face with it, and he falls down the well. So then he goes and gets the gasoline, and he dumps the gasoline in the well, and he strikes the match, and it explodes. How the well explodes, I'll never know. But it explodes, and then you hear the voiceover indicating that there's going to be a sequel. So now, parents out there, if you think your kids can handle it, screen it first, of course. But it might be a fun little distraction that you guys can watch on Halloween. There isn't really a lot of gory parts, per se. But it might be a little bit scary for little kids.
Except at the end when the leprechaun is melting and he does his whole, I'm melting! Melting!
Kind of like the Wicked Witch of the West, by the way. So, screen it first, of course, as always.
And there is language. So.
And there's some profanity. So, parents out there, screen it first before you let your children watch it. You know, we always say these things when we're reviewing harder material that is not necessarily appropriate for kids. Because we're good, responsible people like that.
Yeah.
So, my final rating for this, 5 out of 5. What say you?
5 leprechauns out of 5.
It is crazy. It's insane. You'll love it. Just shut your brain off, because if you think about it for 2 seconds, you're going to be like, how is any of this happening? So, We found it on Peacock. You can watch it there. It's also available on VHS, which, fun fact, it sold over 100,000 copies of the VHS tape.
All right, Dad, let's get on to our outro.
Of course. But of course, if you think that The Leprechaun is the worst movie of all time, well, in this case, you're not really alone. And you have some valid points on the why it could be. But just remember, we're just two idiots with a cell phone camera. Our opinions do not matter, except they actually do, because we have a YouTube show, except they actually don't. So, having said that, we'll see you guys this coming weekend.
Actually, probably today, because I finished the book, guys.
Yeah.
And if you remember from the Night of the Twisters review, you know which book I'm talking about.
Yeah, so look forward to that in just a few minutes. But to get back to our other series that we got going on as well, look for the final installment of Lifetime Movies, A Dude's Perspective.
No. We haven't gone 10 episodes yet. We can't do that yet.
Okay, I guess we're going to be doing some concurrent ones then here. My bad, guys. I'm a little off on my own schedule. Can you believe that? But look for the next installment of Lifetime Movies, A Dude's Perspective, Season 2, later this week, as well as we'll be getting back on track with Tom and Jerry Thursday and
Walker
Saturday. And, yes,
Walker
of course,
is back.
Can't forget that. Friday, March 12th, look for the new review of the newest episode of Walker. It's coming out March 11th, so look for it March 12th. And having said all that, guys, we'll see you guys next time. Oh, but one other thing, because we didn't do it at the beginning. If you have not become a citizen of YouTube land, all you have to do is hit that subscription button below, and you'll become one. So, having said that, peace and love from Denny and Son, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.